What does it mean to have no address? No address equals unemployment, no housing, no education, no place to call home, criminalization of innocent people, not a part of society. Though having an address equals solutions. This is the No Address Podcast. Be sure to listen all the way to the end for a special announcement. Welcome to episode 10 of No Address Podcast, where we break down the philosophy of having no address and what that really means. So on today's episode, a little backstory, my friend Heather Hutton, which is on the first and second episodes of this podcast, connected me with a lady named Nina that connected me with the president of Four Corners Group, William Johnson. So by doing some research on Four Corners Group, I saw some stats that were astonishing for our youth in America today. That's part of the systematic detention and prison industrial complex system. And it stated that the recidivism rates alone are nearly 80%. So I wanted to know what his organization is actually doing, the need, and different solutions. And you also know we're going to tie this in to homelessness and how youth can be affected in the aftermath. So let's get started. Welcome, William, to No Address Podcast. How is life?
Life is well, Miss Kalita. Thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it. It's good to be with you and your listeners.
Oh, I am excited that you are on the show because this has definitely given us another twist to what this system looks like, and it's a whole pipeline. So I want to kind of talk about Four Corners Group, how you got started, and where you're going.
So in 2006, I was invited to a juvenile facility out in Gwinnett County as a one-time guest speaker, just for one day. And that particular facility housed about, I think it had 35 beds or 33 beds in it. I think it seemed like about 50 kids came out. I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. But they came out that day, and man, they were like my kids. I have two daughters of my own, and they could have been my daughters, could have been my sons. And only difference was that majority of these young people didn't have fathers in their lives. Most of them were fatherless or single parent homes, or were coming out of group homes, or were in foster care. A lot of them had addictions to different things, were medicating because of some pain they experienced, and somebody dropping the ball on them, or just kind of abusing them or hurting them in some kind of way. And my heart was just really broken for the young people that I met that day. And I just clearly heard the Lord just tell me that He wanted me to keep coming and to bring community with me. And so one day turned into an 8-year of me continuing to serve out at that facility, which has turned into an entire 14-year journey of really helping to address the issue of recidivism in juvenile facilities, which is about 70 to 80% across the country.
And that's ridiculous. I mean, and why do you think that is?
Wow. So there are a number of reasons why the rate is so high. Number one, it is there is a system in place that really financially gains from the ignorance of our young people, just making poor decisions. And ignorance is not a bad word. I mean, it just means it's something we just don't know. But many of our young people, they don't understand and they don't know. I often say they've been dealt a set of cards that is a losing hand. Many of them have grown up in poverty, are marginalized, are disconnected, and again, many times fatherless. And I say that with much respect because I fit into a lot of that growing up myself as a child, and so that's why I feel like I can identify real well with some of the kids that we serve. And many of our kids lack vision, right? They have no idea where they want to be. They've never seen anything other than the blocks in which they live. And I mean, without vision, kids will continue to do the same thing over and over because they have no idea where they want to be, what they want to do, what they want to experience. And so we will normally gravitate to whatever our environment is. So if it's violence, if it's crime, if it's brokenness, if it's whatever, we'll normally continue to recycle the same things that we've been given. So, not to mention that many of our kids are anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years behind in their reading or their writing. So when you think about that, on top of everything that I've just mentioned, that means your self-esteem is low, you're behind in class, and many of our kids are dropping out in middle school, let alone high school. Many of them are dropping out in middle school as well as high school.
Wow.
And all that together makes a melting pot for, homelessness and many of the other things that we see going on in our community.
So would you say statistically the majority of the youth that you're referring to are Black?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely people of color, African Americans, a good bit of them are Hispanic and Latino. That will be the majority that we find inside facilities and that are also caught up in this vicious cycle. So, Khalida, my staff just pulled this up that youth that don't have a high school diploma or degree are over 300% more likely to end up homeless. And those that grow up in a household with less than 24,000 are 162% more likely to end up homeless. So those are just a few stats to help understand how important it is, number one, for students as far as where their reading level is and just kind of what their household looks like, single parent, 2-parent household, how that makes a huge difference and impact as far as young people and the possible pipeline that can lead them to homelessness.
Now we're going through COVID. Evictions just started last week, right?
Yeah.
And how many more? They're estimating 26 to 29 million. So this is just astonishing. Like the world is going to look like Skid Row if we don't do something about it.
Right. Wow.
Right?
That's a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So education is the key first. You need to know and not be tuned into all the fear and figure out your life right now.
Right.
Because it is going to change, in whatever way that looks like. But if we come together collectively as a community and have, alternative housing and other things in place, we can just transition and not be on the streets because there aren't enough shelters. There aren't enough girls and boys homes to house people because you can't house the people that are unsheltered now. So
that's right.
What are we going to do?
What's that going to look like 2 years from now, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit about how you birthed Four Corners. I kind of know it came out of that, but what was like the action plan and we're going to do this now and how long have you been in existence and what do you actually do in your program?
Right. So obviously this all got birthed out of that one-time visit to that juvenile facility, and what kind of happened from there was within, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, someone from the school system kind of saw some of the things I were doing with students, with life skills, character development, and said, hey, would you mind meeting one of the principals in DeKalb County? I did, and was a principal over at Stone Mountain High School, and she mentioned this was late part of 2006. Hey, I got 300 kids on a caseload. If they don't get intervention, majority of them may end up in that juvenile facility that you're currently serving every month. And so we started a leadership program in the school, and eventually that became under a nonprofit called Thrive Youth Development, where we were going in and developing youth into leaders that would transform their communities, and we would do that through a great curriculum with some of the greatest and best coaches we could find, trained coaches, paid coaches that would work with students and mentor students for an entire year, groups of students, character development, life skills, workforce development, days of service where we take them off the campus to serve other people. And partnering with Safe House downtown and doing pancake brunches for people that may be on the streets, and just different opportunities to expose them to serving others and growing their leadership skills. And so, that turned into about 14 years of doing that under Thrive Youth Development. And simply, we've taken all of that learning and all that context and made that part of our process for how we'll serve kids that are kind of caught up in the juvenile system. So it could be kids that we actually encounter. We have teams that are inside the juvenile facilities here in Cobb, as well as a team there in Indianapolis, and they do what I've just mentioned with kids, serving kids with life skills, principles, enthusiasm. How do you turn lemons into lemonade? How do you turn something negative into something positive? And helping them to grasp these tools, and we try to keep it very engaging. Discussion models and also a lot of skits and dramas and videos that we use to help drive home the points, and we keep a lot of laughter in the classroom, even inside of a juvenile facility. And so that's kind of where everything began. And then we realized that really the bread and butter would happen when kids that are caught up in the system would connect with us when they get out or when they're ready to do something different. So we created what's called a 1625, we call it a Pathways to Success program. It's an 8-week leadership program of everything, again, that we've kind of gotten as a science from 14 years of working with some 3,000 plus kids in DeKalb County and Cobb County over the past 14 years, kind of crunched it together and put it together for 8 weeks. And we walk with students for those 8 weeks, delivering all these different concepts and helping them get the assets they need to begin to thrive and things like that, as well as Toastmasters. We've added that to it as well. Community engagement, days of discovery, days of service. We have dinner together, so there's a lot of relational building going on, and students tend to feel like after 8 weeks this is part of their family, whatever cohort they're a part of. And then once students graduate, it doesn't end there. We place students through our 1625 initiative and Four Corners group. We place them with a mentor on one side and a success coach on the other side to walk with these students the rest of the pathway. So the pathway could be going back to school. It could be just getting a job. It could be getting a paid internship or an apprenticeship opportunity. It could be getting enrolled at a 2-year trade school, or it could be going to a 4-year college. But again, most of our kids, a good deal of them are so far behind in their reading and their writing. A traditional 4-year school is going to be a little bit more of a challenge for them. But we help them understand that they can still be productive citizens in their community and great leaders in their community as well. It could be entrepreneurship. We're helping them get employed with some companies that will help raise their leadership and skill sets until then. And so we'll continue to walk with kids all the way through the process, as well as walk with the parents as well through some parent coaching. So that's kind of what the initiative looks like. 2 tiers, 1 tier working with students directly inside facilities, and then another tier with the Pathways to Success program. Whether kids we meet, or whether it's kids that come through the court system, or whether it's kids on alternative school, it could be numerous how kids get connected with Pathways program.
Wow, that's a handful. So you all are, you all are combating it on both sides, and that's great. Like where they are and where they're going. So I love that connection to not just say, okay, we took care of you while you were here, so you have to figure out the rest, and that's more of a challenge when you're done with this institution. What do I do next? Even just as adult prisoners, or being released from jail, what do I do next? So I'm thankful that you all have these programs in place and, kind of thinking ahead to say, how can we, get these young folks to be productive and motivated and successful in whatever they do. So
absolutely,
I love it. How many detention centers are in Georgia? Do you know?
When I last looked at the number, it was about 28 in county throughout the state of Georgia. So 28 facilities in county. And I don't know if your listeners are aware of this, but because prisons are being so full now, the government can't keep up, and so it's been privatized to build prisons. And obviously, the prisons are being filled from kids that come through this pipeline of the juvenile system. So as kids continue to repeat offenders as young people, if nothing changes, then eventually, unfortunately, the data says these kids will go on to prison. So we're literally looking to eradicate the school to the prison pipeline because we think it goes through the juvenile system. And so we'd love to see that number go down or put some of them out of business.
Right.
I mean, that's what we love to see happen, even though we know we face a big challenge with that. So,
and they're preparing for it because they're implementing so many different, statutes for you to be a part of this system.
Oh yeah. There's some data out there that says that if a kid in third grade or fourth grade can't read on that level, they already project out a cell for that kid. And so, they're projecting out, and they can't keep up with the demand. And unfortunately, it's a lot of money being made again off the ignorance and poor mistakes of our young people, and we're just doing what we can as our grassroots organization just to make a difference, So
how are you going to look at third grade and fourth grade and just decide somebody's life and they haven't even developed yet, and you're like, oh yeah, they're going to be a statistic, and we're going to have a CELL ready for them, a hole ready for them? This is ridiculous.
That's right.
And then they make it so where that can become a reality. With all the obstacles and the challenges and everything else, because when you think about school systems, it really isn't for us. The school system, the way it's set up now, because we don't learn that way. We don't, and I'm like, every child learns differently. Growing up, I had kind of dyslexia a little bit. Like, I will overanalyze everything. But if you gave me an oral test, I can answer it all right then. And then when I read it, I'm like, well, maybe it could mean this or it could mean that. I would just overanalyze everything. And they were like, Cleta, you just answered all the questions. So my teacher, she worked with me and was like, well, we'll just go ahead and give you the oral test and I'll answer it. And then I got an A, But I'm like, doesn't that mean anybody in this world can learn differently? But if you give us this curriculum and this formula, and if we don't adapt to that formula, then we are ostracized, or we're considered something that we're not, without even giving us another alternative. So that's, and the only alternative is what they used to call it, CLC, when I was in school, like the alternative school for the bad kids or the kids that couldn't learn, and that's not what alternative should look like. But
that's right.
Go ahead.
And sometimes it's a breeding ground for more of the poor behavior as well, right? So.
Exactly.
So all of that definitely makes an impact as far as our young people are concerned. Reading, writing level, self-esteem, all those things. And unfortunately, on behalf of educators, I think there are a lot of them that do want to see kids do well. But here's the other thing they have to deal with is when kids come and, man, they have no discipline, or they, parenting, hasn't been the best, and they're having to discipline kids and can't really focus on kids. So there are just so many different dynamics of, what goes on, and they have to be considered, and so, I'm sure it's hard on both ends.
Oh, I bet. And now, okay, so we're in the era of COVID. What kind of challenges have you faced with this, if any?
Yeah, so definitely some challenges. I mean, some of our students really wanted to stay connected, so we did do some what we call bridge programming over the summer and through Zoom. We probably had about maybe 70% of our students participate in that, and then we'll ramp that back up in August. We took a break here in July, but obviously some students, they've seen enough Zoom or they're Zoomed out from school. And there's just something about being in person that, you know, you just can't get through wires and a Zoom call. And so it has definitely impacted the way we are serving students. And, you know, we're just hoping that the spikes will die down and, you know, there'll be some cure. And even using distancing, we're hopeful that we'll be able to crank something back up early October. That's our plan for right now, or at least another cohort of students. So.
Okay. In future, looking beyond, where do you want to grow? How do you want to grow?
That's a great question, Kalita. So how we want to grow is as we continue to dial down on the bare bones of kind of what we're doing here in Atlanta. We want to expand from Cobb to eventually Atlanta and Fulton County, and maybe even a few more facilities and have pathways programs in those areas. And then it looks like the Lord is opening a door for us to go to Dallas, where there's a great need and a lot of recidivism, and so there's a lot of discussions. I do a lot of travel there, or at least before the COVID, and we're exploring that possibility of maybe launching or getting a footprint in Dallas, Texas. So that's kind of where we want to go, and then at some point we do want to go back to Indianapolis and finish what we started there by having a pathways program for the students that we're serving there in the Keystone area. So that's kind of our 3 year plans to scale. And then another way that we want to address this thing of recidivism is that we actually want to bring more awareness to people and legislation and bills that need to be removed or changed that does not benefit our kids, and that will also help our kids to get a winning hand. So we're actually starting to have those discussions now, and starting to look at how we can begin to walk into that space of advocating for our young people, as it relates to, again, some of the legislation and some of the laws that are in existence right now.
Yes, and that's how you get them. You gotta hit them with the law. That's the only way that kind of big change can happen, because we can make change doing, what we're doing step by step, but big change on a global scale that affects the world would be law. I'm so thankful that, you are doing these things and your team are doing this, because we need a lot. And when people, even with the foster care system, when people come out of foster care to try to tie all this in with the unsheltered community, there's nowhere to go.
It's very unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate, and then it should not be an excuse to say, well, we'll put them in a detention center because they have a roof over their head and a meal. That's the same as criminalizing homelessness, to say we'll put you in jail because you'll have a roof over your head and a meal, but you didn't commit a crime.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So if we're going to start with the babies all the way up until adulthood, I mean, we got to break this cycle somewhere.
Yep. Before they get to adulthood. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
So what do you need? We want to wrap this up, but what do you need to continue to be successful?
Well, I always like to look at things from a broad approach. And so even if people aren't interested in our 1625 initiative and the Four Corners work, I just really encourage people and want to challenge, people that, man, we need to be involved. I mean, we can protest and do all of these things, but the unfortunate part about that is that there's normally, after all that happens, there's no action. And I believe that every single person, needs to pray and really just search themselves and ask, hey, how can I make a difference? What is it that I could do? And if it's, not mentoring or going in a facility or going to help proctor tests at a school and just, encourage kids. I mean, but I think there's a place for everybody to be involved, on the front end rather than on the back end, because when we're reactive rather versus proactive, it always costs everybody more. Mm-hmm. And so I think that whole village, it takes a village. I think that still is, that proverb is still very important in this day and time, in this century, and that people need to find what their space is and how can they be involved. It could be just doing, our church family, we're involved in doing enrichment in some of the Hispanic communities. And I mean, it could be a small group of 5 or 6 people that are just going and helping kids with their homework and helping them with their reading and all those things. Why? Because we don't want to see those young people fall in that statistics of those 3rd and 4th graders that they're being a cell built for them, And so it really takes everybody just kind of figure out what can I do, and am I really willing to do something, rather than just talk about it. What can we do about it, And so serve at the Boys and Girls Club, just do something. Don't just sit idle and do nothing, because I think that's the biggest crime, is to see the need or hear about the need and pray about it and don't do anything, because eventually, again, our prayers need some feet to them. We got to do something, So that's from a wide standpoint. From a narrow standpoint, if people are interested in our initiative, they can find us on Volunteer Match with Opportunities. They also can visit our website at fourcornersgroup.net. That's FOURCORNERS group.net. And they can connect with us there if they have an interest in serving in some kind of capacity or joining our work. And so
I am all with that.
Right.
And even when you say it takes a village, like, that's so cliche, but it's so profound, because especially right now, we think we're connecting with people through social media, but we're not. We're really not.
Yeah.
And we have to be boots on the ground and face to face. It's nothing like that human interaction. And that's what we came on this planet for, before that technology existed. And it was a little bit better instead of hiding behind a screen or typing something that can be misinterpreted,
That's correct, Kalina. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm totally.
And then to mention our young people, they need opportunities too. So once they've, kind of proven that they deserve an opportunity, man, we've got to, create some space for them, some space within to learn about entrepreneurship or starting their businesses or helping them get employed and summer employment and things like that. There's so little of that now. We just need more of that. So, they do need opportunities. They definitely need opportunities.
And I have one more question. This is a side note, but what are your thoughts on the so-called water boys that they're highlighing in Atlanta right now?
The water boys. That's good, Kalita. I'm glad you asked about that. I was just talking to some of our team about that, and I was even talking to my wife about that a couple of days ago. And I saw that on the news, and I was encouraged to see that, man, we have some young people that want to be entrepreneurs, that have taken some steps to get, the money, the cash, the dough, whatever you want to call it, that they need, right? And they're doing it in the right way. But then you got a group that maybe needs some more coaching, because, you can't throw water bottles at cars because they don't want the water. So, I saw there that, hey, here's a group of young men, might even be some young ladies in there that, hey, this is a great opportunity to maybe pull some of those students and run them through some kind of entrepreneurship or some kind of youth development piece. But again, they've got to have an opportunity to earn some money, But I think that obviously they need some coaching as well. And I think it's a great opportunity for the city to come together and pull the right people and nonprofits and organizations and maybe even churches together to see what they could begin to pilot to help them start with that group of young people. So I think I think that's a good starting place. Very good starting place.
Well, is it possible for them to go through your program, the 1625 program, without being in the detention center?
That could absolutely be possible. Or even if it means that we partner with someone else to get that done, I would be very much interested in that. So, I don't know if anyone from the mayor's office is going to hear this, but I would like to be a part of her task force to figure this out. So, but yeah, absolutely, we could figure that out.
Yeah, and Felicia Moore it's one that's talking about implementing some type of program, but most of the comments were, well, we need to have a smooth transition. not just halt it all and stop everything, and then it'll take a year or two to implement a program, kind of like a smooth entry path. And I think what you're doing is perfect. So we will definitely put that challenge out to them and see if they take the bait. So I definitely appreciate you and everything that you all are doing. Shout out to your staff, Four Corners Group, and all of your initiatives, because this is going to be successful. And I mean, you've only been here a year and you've accomplished a lot. Well, almost 2 years, and you accomplished a lot. So just imagine the growth and other people opening their doors up to say, come into my facility. We need you. We need you. Let's make this work,
Yeah, thank you so much, Kalita. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
And we're going to just keep moving. Hey, one student at a time, one family at a time, and helping them to change their trajectory and praying that they will pay it forward and they'll do the same for others that they encounter. So that's the goal.
Oh, they will. So our tip of the week, I want you to kind of reiterate what you said about volunteering. And because I kind of do a tip of the week at the end of the show, or day or month or whatever, how long you ever want to do the tip. But it's a tip that we like to give the audience to take action. So can you repeat your action plan, how people can get involved in general?
Yeah. So in general, I would begin to. I always like to tell people to go and see. So sometimes we're not involved because we're not aware. So go and see what's going on in the communities near you. And hear some of the stories, and then pray and see how you might be involved or how you can make a difference in your own area, right? And then if it's specifically here near Cobb or Atlanta. You can certainly reach out to us at fourcornersgroup.net, or you can also email us at info@fourcornersgroup.net, and we'll respond. We have a couple of opportunities that are posted on Volunteer Match. You can find us there as well. And so we would love to hear from you, but more than anything, again, step up, make a difference, be involved. I share with people, whatever the difference you see needs to happen, it's got to start with you. So it starts with just one person, just stepping out of the norm and saying, hey, I'm going to invest in somebody else, and begin to see that happen. So it's going to take all of us working together to make that happen. Every single person. And if you have businesses, hey, be willing to open up your business to mentor a kid through your business. I mean, that'd be a great opportunity to help invest into a young person. So everybody can play a role. Every single person can play a role.
Thank you so much, William, and all the listeners out there. We have exciting news that No Address is now on Amazon. Yay! So be sure to search No Address documentary to rent or own today. So you can also go to noaddressdocumentary.com to view it there as well. So subscribe to our podcast or whichever platform you choose to stay up to date. And until next time, peace and love.